And immediately we'll proceed to document ITH 13.8.com 13D, to the topic we discussed yesterday in connection with the question of the number of files. This is the subject of document 13D. Can I ask Brazil? Brazil is not here, but he was in the hall just now. I saw Brazilian delegate came 2 minutes before, but he disappeared. So maybe Madame Duvel.
But let's skip to this one.
So I'm sorry, but then let's move to the 14th. If it is not so principled, we can move to 14th. Let us take 14. He's coming. So we have good chance. So sorry for this. We already announced your...
Here I am. Okay, Mr. Chairman, as you may recall from the discussions last night, when we agreed on the number of files, it was in the context of a whole package of revisions of the operational guidelines which concerns the evaluation of files. And the idea, after informal consultations with pretty much almost every member of the committee, we came to an agreement that we could merge the two bodies into a single body that would have the features of both the subsidiary and the consultative body. So this new body would be composed of 12 members to be appointed by the committee, 6 experts qualified in the field of intangible cultural heritage, representatives of state parties, non-members of the committee. So they're representatives of state parties, like in the subsidiary body, but they are from non-committee members. So that question of conflict of interest won't be, say, valid. But apart from the 6 experts, this body will also comprise 6 accredited NGOs. Of course, each coming from a different electoral group. The idea, Mr. Chairman, is that the members of this consultative body be proposed by each electoral group. So we copied the procedure contained in the rules of procedure of the General Assembly for candidatures to the committee. We copied the procedure. So the idea is that 3 months before the opening of the committee session, the Secretariat will inform the state parties of the electoral group with a vacant seat, will inform of that vacant seat, and the electoral groups will propose up to 3 candidatures to that seat. Be understood that the seat can be for an NGO or for a state expert. And so once, of course, these members are appointed by the committee, they shall act, say, impartially and in the interest of all member states, and in line with the principles of the convention. This body, Mr. Chairman, so that we don't have any confusion in the future, will be called advisory body. So, according to Article 8.3 of the Convention, the committee can create consultative bodies. So this is a consultative body in line with the Convention to be called advisory body. So this is the proposal as a whole, and it comes also with the necessity of revising a decision that we have already adopted for the following reason. Some states have expressed some concern that once an expert representative of a state party, non-member of the committee, is elected or appointed to this advisory body, this, if it's a developing country, might not be in a position to provide to cover the costs of the participation of these experts in the advisory body. So we're proposing a slight adjustment in the budget for the usage of the fund to allow for these advisory services to allow the fund to provide financial support to this state party if it so requests. So basically, this is the whole package after long consultations, and I know this is not ideal. I think that every country that would say, oh, we could do this way, we could do that way. This is, say, the middle ground. And the good thing is that perhaps no one is happy, which is good, which meant that everyone gave in. So if no one is happy, it means that we reached a good decision. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I think that when nobody is happy, everyone is happy. So, but should we avoid discussions on this matter, or should we proceed to some ideas? I see Nicaragua wants the floor.
Muchas gracias, presidente. Yo sé que queremos ir rapidito y yo también quiero ir. Sin embargo, solo por una cuestión de tranquilidad legal, digamos, ¿verdad? Yo soy abogado y entonces a veces tiendo a ver las cosas de varias maneras, ¿no? El artículo 8.3 de la Convención efectivamente dice que el Comité podrá crear de carácter transitorio los órganos consultivos adjuntos que se estimen necesarios. Eso no nos obliga a este artículo que lo nombremos órgano consultivo. A mí me gustaría más que fuera órgano, digamos, grupo asesor, una cosa de esas, ¿no? Pero por supuesto no tengo una oposición de principios sobre este tema. Lo que sí quiero es dejar claro, pues, ¿verdad?, que en la letra y en el espíritu de la Convención, lo que la Convención está facultando al Comité es de crear los órganos consultivos que que considere pertinente, de tal manera que no estamos técnicamente obligados a llamarlo órgano consultivo. Me da la impresión que el grupo asesor sería muchísimo más claro para las funciones que va a tener. Muchísimas gracias, señor presidente, pero insisto en que no es un planteamiento de principios, pues Nicaragua puede vivir perfectamente con la formulación presentada con Brasil, y le agradezco a la delegación de Brasil la colaboración y el apoyo que nos ha dado en este sentido. Muchas gracias.
Please, Brazil.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I will speak in Spanish. Yo creo que la preocupación de Nicaragua podrá ser atendida porque lo que proponemos es que este órgano consultivo sea llamado órgano asesor. Entonces, en francés, organe consultatif. I think the problem comes in French. In French, there is no translation. Advisory and consultative is the same in French. Okay, so in this case, in English, it will be known as advisory body. In French, organe consultatif. Y in Spanish, órgano asesor. Si Nicaragua esté de acuerdo. Bueno, quizás podemos oír a España y otros colegas. Gracias.
Spain, please. We are giving floor.
Sí, gracias, presidente. Gracias, Brasil, por darnos la palabra. Efectivamente, bueno, como declaración en cuanto a la propuesta que hace Brasil, España tampoco manifiesta su oposición, pero sí nos gustaría señalar el siguiente matiz, que debido a que este cambio se ha debido a una situación especial, sí que nos planteáramos que fuera un sistema que funcionara a título experimental, puesto que los anteriores sistemas, a nuestro entender, como ya hemos dicho en reiteradas ocasiones, estaban funcionando bien. Entonces, aceptamos, por el consenso de la Sala, este nuevo sistema, pero que nos lo planteemos a título experimental. Es un órgano que va a crecer el doble. Vamos a ver cómo funciona. Vamos a darle una oportunidad. Pero sí nos gustaría que se señalara que vamos a funcionar a título experimental. Dicho esto, compartimos la apreciación que ha dicho la delegación de Nicaragua, por cuanto si se mantiene el término consultivo, parece que estamos suprimiendo al órgano subsidiario y manteniendo al órgano consultivo. Para nosotros ese matiz es muy importante. Por lo tanto, sí que habíamos pensado en una nueva denominación que planteamos que sería en los siguientes idiomas, la siguiente terminología, por favor que me corrijan las delegaciones francófonas y anglófonas si no es correcto. Sería Organe d'Evaluation para el francés, Evaluation Body en inglés y en español sería órgano de evaluación. Gracias, presidente.
I think it's a good proposal and reflects the sense. Belgium.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you might know, today is in Belgium and many other countries, we celebrate the Day of St. Nicholas, and he brings us chocolate and candy. And well, I didn't find anything in my room. This is probably just due to the lack of a chimney. This is definitely not as sweet as candy, but still, I think it is tasty. And it is a proposal, I think, in which we can find the elements that we need. Not everything, but I think this is a good consensus proposal. So we would first of all like to commend the Brazilian delegation for the efforts they have made in this regard. I think, as the distinguished delegate of Spain mentioned, we wouldn't see a problem with including a reference to the experimental nature. I think it's always a bit of an experiment, of course. It's something new we're proposing. We tend to change, we can always change the operational directive, so we always have, of course, the possibility of reviewing something if it wouldn't work well. But of course, we would agree with this inclusion. Thank you.
Thank you, Morocco.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Le Maroc voudrait aller dans le sens de ce qui a été dit par l'Espagne et l'appuyer. Nous sommes tout à fait d'accord que le travail des organes tel qu'il s'est fait, et nous l'avons vu au cours de cette session, n'était pas si critiquable que cela. Nous prenons compte maintenant du contexte dans lequel nous acheminons vers un seul organe, et nous accueillons la proposition qui vient de nous être faite par le Brésil, et nous sommes également d'accord avec ce qu'a dit le Nicaragua, aussi bien sur la question du nom que sur le caractère provisoire de cet organe, d'ailleurs conformément avec l'article 8.3 de la Convention. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much. Nicaragua, please.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente. Al suscribir lo declarado por España y secundado por Marruecos, tal vez lo que podríamos decir, y la propuesta sería, al tenor del artículo 8.3, y todo continúa, porque el artículo 8.3 establece claramente que el comité podrá crear con carácter transitorio, ya está establecido en la misma convención, de tal manera que si hacemos referencia al artículo que nosotros estamos abocando de la misma convención, estaríamos resolviendo todas las inquietudes que tenemos nosotros mismos, ¿no? Muchas gracias.
Thank you. Albania, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to support what Nicaragua just said. Indeed, if we mention the Article 8.3 of the Convention, it does say it's on a temporary basis. And as for the name, I think advisory, it would be more appropriate because the Convention, Article 8, and also Rule 20 of the rules of the operational guidelines, they talk about consultative bodies that the committee can establish. So it would be more appropriate and more in line with the wording used already in the Convention and the operational guidelines to call it advisory. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other opinions? Nigeria.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to express my great appreciation and gratitude to Brazil for the good network and synergy he had put into getting this consensus. For us, whether it's evaluative, advisory, it's semantics. It's a question of wording. Either it's advisory or evaluative. The important thing is that we have a marriage of convenience that is okay for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. China, please.
The Chinese delegation just like to support what the Spanish delegation just proposed. Thank you.
Thank you. So we agreed on the principle. We agreed that this is the solution which reflects all positions, and for the temporary basis gives us the possibility to go further with the work. The only thing which remained is the classification of this committee, the name I mean. Japan.
Thank you, Chair. Japan supports the proposal to create one body, and the name that the Article 8.3 referred is ad hoc consultative body is describe the character of the bodies, not necessarily the name itself. So I can accept both advisory or evaluation. At the same time, we can go for the adoption, but under this subject, we'd like to discuss how this new body or the evaluation will take place. So could you ensure that time for that discussion before or after the adoption? It can be before or after.
How this evaluation committee will work? You inquired your question to the Secretariat?
No. Because we are creating a new body to evaluate the nominations, and there have been a lot of discussions about how we function. So before adoption, it may be appropriate to discuss how these new bodies will act. Exactly the same as before, or there will be some changes. But creating the advisory or evaluation body, we have no objection, so we can go ahead first for adoption, then after we can discuss. Or before the adoption, we can have some thought on the function of these new bodies after its creation.
Thank you. Upon my understanding, the body will work according to the mechanism and guides which were implemented before that, because there is no sense of changing the system, because the time, the schedule, the evaluation period, the working method, I think must remain the same, because if it will be changing, it will follow with a lot of documentations to be proposed, prepared, discussed, approved. So this is simply, from my point of view, the merge of the two bodies to enlarge the possibility of Secretariat to fulfill the same activity they had beforehand. So this is, I think, the understanding. But I think that the Secretariat may give you the response. What is to the name, I highly respect the view of all delegates, but the sense of activity of the committee is to evaluate, and taking in consideration that there is a misunderstanding in languages, that the advisory board, consultative board in French and so on, the evaluating body in all languages have the same sense and the same pronunciation, nearly equal, maybe it is more correct to have evaluation to be understood and accepted in all languages. This is the proposal. Azerbaijan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I would like to commend the efforts of our Brazilian colleague and many others to achieve a consensus on this very difficult issue. My delegation would like to dwell on a bit more on two things that we believe is very important. First one is the cost efficiency of this body, and this body will give some flexibility to the Secretariat to fulfill its job with these human and financial constraints. And the second point is we will avoid the conflict of interest, which is also important. The composition of the body will be from non-members of the committee. And as for the name, I think it's not so vital to have advisory consultative evaluation, but seems to me that if there is a conflict in the translation of this, interpretation of this language in French, both in French and in English, we can go along with the evaluation body, which is more appropriate for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Should we proceed if there are no principal objections? So, we come to the Spain, please.
Perdone, presidente, que siempre le interrumpo cuando va prácticamente vamos a aprobar el proyecto de decisión. Es una cuestión que se plantea nuestra delegación. No sabemos si encajaría aquí, es una propuesta que querríamos hacer a los miembros del comité, porque es un problema con el que nos hemos encontrado los miembros del órgano subsidiario a la hora de proceder. Entonces no sabemos si encajaría en este apartado o en otro. Es una cuestión que planteamos al comité, a la secretaría especialmente, y es lo siguiente. A la hora de llegar a un acuerdo en los criterios, nos hemos encontrado en varias ocasiones con que el órgano ha tenido que volcarse hacia la minoría para obtener el consenso, con lo cual, de alguna manera, el consenso ha resultado un tanto perverso en algunas decisiones, porque para no bloquear la discusión, la mayoría ha tenido que inclinarse hacia la minoría. Entonces, nos gustaría proponer para las decisiones que hubiera una mayoría, que sería doblarla. Por ejemplo, si ahora somos 12 miembros en este órgano mixto, que en el momento en que se debatiera un criterio y está muy dividido los miembros, si existieran 8 miembros que están a favor y 4 en contra, ese criterio resultará favorable. Lo decimos porque es realmente por fruto de nuestra experiencia, ¿no? Que vemos que la mayoría nos hemos tenido que inclinar hacia la minoría y ese criterio ha resultado fruto de la minoría, no de la mayoría del órgano. Esta es una cuestión que queremos plantear, no sabemos si es en este apartado o en el método de proceder. Muchas gracias, presidente.
Should it be written in the Brazil, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't know if that's legally possible, and I don't know if the Secretariat has the same understanding, but perhaps this new evaluation body could follow the rules of procedures of the committee in its deliberations. I don't know if that's legally possible. Or they could perhaps approve their own rules of procedure. Thank you.
Ask Madame de Belle to respond.
Peut-être que je vais vous éviter quelques débats pour vous expliquer quels sont... D'abord, peut-être répondre au Japon et répondre aussi un petit peu aux préoccupations de l'Espagne pour vous rassurer que, surtout l'organe subsidiaire, par défaut, étant donné qu'il était une émanation du comité, appliquait les règles de procédure du comité. C'est-à-dire que le règlement intérieur de l'organe était le même que celui du comité. Et je crois que la question de la majorité ou de la minorité est exactement la même que celle qui se pose au comité. Vous avez adopté beaucoup de décisions aujourd'hui, toutes n'étaient pas totalement unanimes. Elles ont été faites par consensus, qui était que les avis, on va dire, de la majorité l'ont emporté, et puis vous avez fini par les autres vous rallier, je pense, à ces décisions. Donc je crois que dans le cadre de l'organe, on est dans la même situation, et je me souviens que certains des organes, d'ailleurs je crois que c'est arrivé aussi bien au subsidiaire qu'au consultatif, parfois ils n'ont pas réussi à se mettre d'accord et ils ont présenté 2 options au comité. Et je leur ai toujours dit que c'était possible, qu'au moment où ils n'ont pas l'intime conviction qu'ils ont une opinion unanime, il vaut mieux qu'ils offrent les alternatives au comité. Et donc le comité a été plusieurs fois saisi d'options, sachant que l'organe n'avait pas été capable de se positionner. Et donc je crois qu'il faudra qu'ils gardent les mêmes méthodes, dans la mesure du possible faire leur travail, c'est-à-dire proposer des recommandations unanimes au comité. S'ils n'arrivent pas à se mettre d'accord, s'ils n'arrivent pas à faire émerger justement un consensus, il faudra qu'ils mettent des options. S'ils mettent trop souvent d'options, ça voudra dire que le système ne fonctionne pas. Maintenant, pour répondre au Japon, peut-être que je vais dire qu'à partir du moment où ce nouvel organe va être adopté, enfin avalisé dans les directives opérationnelles par l'Assemblée générale, il devient un nouvel organe et donc les 2 autres disparaissent. Il n'y en a pas un qui disparaît, mais 2 qui disparaissent. L'ensemble des membres des organes subsidiaires et consultatifs actuels ne sont plus membres de rien, et vous allez être appelés pour la première fois à composer ce nouvel organe avec cette nouvelle procédure de proposition de nom, qui ne vous empêche pas d'ailleurs de présenter les mêmes personnes qui ont servi dans l'un ou l'autre organe pour bénéficier de l'expérience acquise. Mais en tout cas, on sera obligé, du fait que c'est une nouvelle procédure, de recommencer un système à zéro et de réétablir, comme vous l'avez fait la dernière fois, un système de rotation qui vous permette ensuite d'avoir une prévisibilité des sièges à pourvoir chaque année nouveaux. Voilà, c'est ce que je pouvais dire, j'espère, pour éclairer vos débats.
Thank you. Japan, please.
Thank you very much for that clarification. Now, I really would like to introduce some of the general argument which we had in our electoral group aspect, because we are creating a new body. Because many felt that this convention should be applied in a more inclusive way rather than restrictive way, exclusive way. And so listing is very important. Of course, only the list is not important, as some other delegates mentioned, but those safeguarding lists, or the lists are very core of the convention, which promote the application and also for more smooth functioning of the agreement. So I hope this new body or advisory body will act in a way to facilitate the inscription of the nomination rather than to eliminate it. And especially concerning the urgent safeguarding list, we really hope that this advisory body will support fully so that the more number of the nomination will be made. And at the same time, we, as I mentioned before, proper and appropriate screening and checking is necessary in order to ensure the credibility of the convention. In that sense, the role of this new body will be all the more important in the future. And also, this has nothing to do in this agenda, but how this body functions and how the evaluation is made. There are also general views in our group that the more opinions of the state party should be reflected. For example, at this moment, submitting country has no say unless requested asked questions. And it is under very famous rule of procedure 22.4, I guess. And so many countries ask questions to clarify their positions. Then the submitting country responds. Then after that, there are some discussions. But if that takes place anyway, why not give some role to the submitting country? Because in the end, advisory council, advisory body, the writer, authors of the recommendation say they know well or the best about the recommendation and the files, and the submitting country know the file very well. So rather than asking other countries to pose some question to the countries, why not give directly the words to that submitting country after the recommendation is introduced by the bodies? Then discussion can be open. So this has to change the procedure, so it's not something that we should take up this meeting, and we are not asking any change at this moment. But because many countries thought this convention belonged to the state parties and not to the secretariat or the advisory bodies. And there seems to be some scenes that the committee members, or including observers, we are sometimes confronting the advisory bodies or before. So if this new body is created, I think those general view of the ASPAC will be reflected in the future operation of the conventions. And so we need further discussions and also some necessary changes in the future, which cannot be done easily. But I hope many countries start giving some serious thought about future direction, because this convention is very young. We just celebrated the 10th anniversary, just 1 decade. So that means we are in a growing stage, and many necessary changes should be made if it truly serves the purpose of the convention. So this is what I wanted to say on behalf of some of the members represented from the ASPAC, not the committee members of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Nigeria, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was just ruminating over what Japan just said, and from my own personal experience, it's very true. It's better to give straight audience or the floor to the submitting state to defend itself directly. It saves time, and I say why. The scale of justice is true. If the state, the subsidiary body or advisory body gives a verdict, there must be a right of response or right of appeal, and it should be given straight to the submitting country. It lessens the politics, it lessens the tension, and it saves time. So I agree with Japan on that scope. Another thing is that we may never know. I don't think we should go into the details of the rules, because I have my own this thing. For instance, I think that countries that are just leaving the subsidiary body should not be part of the countries that will now be non-committee members. When they are going out, they were there for 4 years. They were able to put people on the subsidiary and consolidated body. Now that they are going out, they will also have the opportunity to also put somebody in the new body. So any country that is going out now, 2 years must stay out and not put anybody. So I have my own opinion too. So it's better to leave that now and agree on what we have done as a minimum. Thank you.
Brazil, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think what Japan and Nigeria are putting forward are very relevant issues. I'm particularly quite happy they're raising this, because this goes in line with the proposal that we made in the beginning of the last session to experiment, just for the last session, the suspension of Rule 22.4, so that we could allow for exactly what Japan is proposing. But this was not taken on board at that session, but I'm very happy that this is coming back again. But this does not, I believe, touches directly what we have on the screen. So perhaps if Japan and Nigeria is in agreement, we could add to the decision a paragraph that inscribes an agenda item to the next committee session on the revision of the rules of procedure of the committee. And then the committee can perhaps in the next session reflect on how we could change its rules to allow for a better dialogue with states, parties, non-members of the committee. And I think that perhaps this would solve some of the issues that they have raised. But since this, in fact, does not deal exactly with the point on the screen. Since I have the floor, Mr. Chairman, just for a matter of consistency, we have to change evaluation. We have to change advisory to evaluation in every time this appears in the draft amendment to the Operational Directives. So just for a matter of consistency. Thank you.
Thank you. Granada.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I know that this issue of giving the floor to the submitting country was discussed even and considered in other committees. Nevertheless, my delegation is happy with the procedure as it is now, that when the committee has questions, members of the committee have questions to ask the submitting state party, they should be able to do so and ask the state party to respond to the specific questions. Opening the floor in an automatical way to the submitting state party is inviting them for advocacy, and this is not helpful for the committee to decide. I think that we have a procedure, that we have to examine a file that was already evaluated by a consultative evaluation body. Now it's called the evaluation body. So I don't see the opportunity and the need to open the floor to each and every submitting state party to advocate for its file. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Burkina Faso, please.
Merci bien, Monsieur le Président. Je voudrais tout d'abord remercier la délégation du Brésil pour ce travail de fourmi qui a été mené afin que nous parvenions à un consensus, et également aussi remercier la délégation de l'Espagne pour la proposition qui a été faite. Je crois qu'il faut qu'on se remette effectivement dans l'ordre normal des choses, que ce soit l'organe consultatif ou l'organe subsidiaire dont nous parlions tout à l'heure, sont quand même des émanations du comité. Je ne pense pas qu'il y ait une différence fondamentale donc, entre ces organes-là et le comité. Et je crois qu'en dernier ressort, le travail donc, de ces organes-là est soumis donc, pour examen au comité. Je crois que cette proposition, en tout cas, rencontre l'assentiment du Burkina Faso. Et nous avions également souhaité que, compte tenu de la charge de travail qui reviendrait aux membres de cet organe d'évaluation, il serait peut-être intéressant que pour les États qui le désirent, ils puissent bénéficier effectivement donc d'une assistance pour la mise en œuvre de ce travail d'évaluation. Parce que lorsque effectivement l'organe subsidiaire fonctionnait, il faut peut-être le rappeler, les États mettaient en place pour ceux qui étaient membres de cet organe très souvent donc un groupe de travail pluridisciplinaire qui devait se pencher sur l'évaluation. Ce n'était pas véritablement un seul expert qui faisait le travail, même si cette fois-ci, effectivement, on parle d'expertise, mais cela sous-entend certainement qu'il y a le recours également donc, à peut-être d'autres personnes, et ce serait intéressant que cette disposition-là puisse être maintenue. Maintenant, concernant la question donc du règlement donc du comité, je crois que ce qui est important, c'est de s'en tenir au formulaire de candidature, c'est de s'en tenir à la candidature. Et je crois que ce qui est demandé aux États partis lorsque le comité siège et qui soumettent des dossiers, c'est de démontrer effectivement à travers les questions qui sont posées si les lacunes qui ont été constatées dans la candidature figurent bel et bien dans le dossier. Et je crois que la méthode actuelle permet justement de pouvoir offrir cette opportunité-là à l'État d'apporter les réponses adéquates. Donc, comme le disait tout à l'heure une délégation, je ne me rappelle plus c'est laquelle, je crois que c'est peut-être préférable de conserver cette méthode et comme le Brésil l'a dit, de poursuivre donc la réflexion et d'en discuter à la prochaine session du comité. Merci bien, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much. Czech Republic.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Moi aussi, j'aimerais bien me joindre à mes collègues pour remercier le Brésil pour ses efforts quant à ce point important de notre débat. Je pense que, comme souvent, le délégué de Burkina Faso a déjà un peu mieux que moi d'ailleurs, soulevé ce point dont Japon et la Nigérie ont parlé. Il me semble que le comité prend ses décisions sur le dossier de candidature et je ne vois pas comment le fait de donner la parole à l'État soumissionnaire pourrait l'aider dans cette tâche. Toutes les informations importantes devraient figurer dans le dossier de nomination et je pense que si on pouvait donner la parole à l'État soumissionnaire, peut-être ça ne nous aiderait pas dans nos décisions. C'est ça. Merci.
Indonesia, please.
I would just like to add a little to that which was just proposed by the delegation of Japan. State parties whose nomination files have not fulfilled all of the criteria, as we have seen in this meeting and previous meetings, almost in all cases will speak to a reply to questions. This is going to happen anyway. So what the delegation of Japan has conveyed, and this is a result of discussions which took place in our Asia-Pacific group, why not give them the chance anyway? They're going to do it either in response to questions, after many, many questions, then they will speak. It's happened in almost all cases. So I think the delegation of Japan is just trying to be pragmatic in this case. Thank you.
Thank you. No other interpretations? But I think that we are now slowly moved to another topic of the discussion. So let's finalize the document which we are discussing now, and then if there will be necessity, we'll proceed to discuss how it will work. Until now, we had the proposal come from Brazil, according to the consensus achieved by negotiations through the delegations. So can we proceed to the approval of this document without taking in consideration the future activity? By all means, we will return to this matter. So this is document number, I got draft decision 8-13D. Should we go paragraph by paragraph? No. I think that we discussed everything, and the inscription of the sense and the phraseology shown in annex and in the decision were discussed and accepted by all of us. So I declare it approved. Thank you very much.